You've heard of the Amazon, you've heard of Patagonia, but what about the place that stretches through both and climbs 22,000 feet into the sky? Welcome to the Andes Mountains, where the air gets thin, the clouds get weird, and the birds, they get really strange. Some of these species glow like fruit, some whisper in caves, and one has a beak longer than its body, like longer than its body. It's not even the weirdest one on this list. And here's the question I want you to think about. If a bird can evolve to eat fruit in total darkness, echolocate like a bat, or lose its ability to fly altogether, then what does survival actually look like at the top of the world? Because the Andes don't just test birds, they shape them. In this video, we're counting down 15 of the rarest, wildest, and most unreal bird species that you'll only find in this colossal mountain range. Some are nearly extinct, some haven't changed in millennia, and some might make you rethink how weird nature can get. Let's start with a bird that looks like it belongs in a rave. Feathers, neon, attitude, maxed out. All right, imagine this. You're deep in the cloud forests of Peru, it's foggy, it's quiet, and suddenly through the mist, you see what looks like a glowing orange pom-pom screaming from a branch. Congratulations, you've just met the Andean cock of the rock. This bird doesn't walk into the forest, it owns it. Bright orange plumage that looks like it was dyed with highlighters, a fan-shaped crest that covers half its face, and eyes so intense, they look photoshopped. If a traffic cone and a bird had a baby, this would be it. But it's not just the looks, it's the drama. Male cock of the rocks gather in small groups called leks, basically bird dating arenas. There they scream, hop, bow, and fluff their feathers, all while trying to outshine the guy next to them. It's like the Bachelorette Jungle Edition. And the females? They just sit in the shadows, judging. If a male impresses her, she mates with him once and then goes off to raise the chick solo. The guy gets 0 dad points. Classic. But here's the twist. Even though it looks like a tropical party bird, the cock of the rock lives in the Andes, places where clouds cling to cliffs and vines hang from mossy trees. It thrives in chaos. It lives in drama. Fun fact, the name cock of the rock comes from their habit of nesting on rocky cliff faces. And yeah, also because early European naturalists didn't know what else to call a fluorescent jungle chicken. Today, they're still relatively common in parts of the eastern Andes, but their forest homes are shrinking. Logging and human encroachment are slowly pushing them into higher, more fragmented territory. So here's the question for you. If you had to win a mate by throwing a forest dance battle, do you think you'd survive the jungle version of America's Got Talent? Tell us in the comments. And up next, the lights go off. We're diving into a cave to meet a bird that echolocates like a bat and was once boiled down for lamp oil. Yeah, it gets weirder. Let's turn off the lights. No, really. This next bird prefers it pitch black. Deep in the Andes, tucked inside massive caves, lives a bird that flies at night, eats fruit, and navigates with echolocation. Sounds like a bat? Try again. Meet the oilbird, possibly the weirdest thing with feathers you'll ever hear about. By day, they cling to cave walls like vampires, literally. Dozens, sometimes hundreds, lined up along damp stone, glowing red eyes and a face that looks like it's permanently judging you. By night, they burst out in eerie, fluttering swarms, using echolocation clicks to navigate total darkness while searching for oily fruits in the forest canopy. Yes, echolocation, like a bat, but it's a bird with fruit breath. Now let's talk about the name. Oilbird isn't just poetic, it's gruesome history. Back in the day, oilbird chicks were harvested because their bodies are so fat from all that fruit that they could be boiled down into lamp oil. Yep, bird oil lamps. Why use whale when you can squeeze a cave bird? Thankfully, that's a thing of the past. But the bird's bizarre lifestyle remains. They only nest in complete darkness. Their chicks take longer to fledge than almost any other bird. And their main food, palm fruits and laurels, is packed with natural oils, which they store like little flying avocados. Fun fact, oilbirds are the only nocturnal, fruit-eating, echolocating bird in the world. That's a mouthful, but honestly, they deserve it. They're still found in scattered Andean cave systems from Venezuela to northern Peru, but are rarely seen unless you're brave enough or weird enough to go spelunking. So here's the question. If your survival depended on living in a dark, echo-filled cave, would you adapt like the oilbird or peace out to the nearest patch of sunlight? Let us know in the comments and stick around, because next up is a bird with a beak so long, it looks like it tripped evolution on its way out of the forest. Okay, you know how hummingbirds are small, delicate, lightning fast? Now imagine one with a sword for a face. This is the sword-billed hummingbird, and it holds a world record no other bird can match. It's the only bird on Earth whose bill is longer than its body. Seriously. It looks like someone stretched out its beak in Photoshop and forgot to hit undo. But here's the amazing part. That crazy bill? It's not a mistake. It's a masterpiece of evolution. The sword-billed hummingbird feeds on flowers with absurdly long corollas, flowers that most birds and insects can't reach. Think passion flowers or angel's trumpets. The swordbill swoops in, hovers in place, and slides its beak deep into the bloom like a biological fencing move. No tongue acrobatics needed, just pure reach. But that beak comes at a cost. It's so long the bird can't preen its feathers with it, so it uses its feet as grooming tools, like a little sky samurai with a hygiene routine. And when it rests, it tilts its head way back just to keep the beak from tipping it over. Visuals? Hilarious. Survival? Flawless. Fun fact, the sword-billed hummingbird isn't just a flower specialist, it's also a keystone pollinator. Some Andean plants have evolved to rely exclusively on it for reproduction. No sword beak, no next generation. It's literally holding up an ecosystem with its face. But its range is narrow. It lives only in humid Andean cloud forests between 2,500 and 4,000 meters elevation. Deforestation and climate shifts. Big threats. So yes, it looks like it flew into a fencing tournament by accident, but it's actually an elite specialist. The sword is sharp and necessary. So here's your question. If you had to evolve a tool that stuck out of your face just to reach your food, what would it be? A fork? A straw? A spoon? Drop your answers in the comments. Bonus points for weird ideas. And stay close because the next bird is ghost-like, delicate, and so rare. Even researchers have trouble finding it in broad daylight. If a bird could be a whisper, this one would barely make a sound. Meet the Diadem sandpiper-plover, a name so long, even bird nerds just call it the diademed. But don't let the soft name fool you. This bird is tough. It lives in one of the most extreme environments on Earth, the high-altitude wetlands of the Andes, often above 4,000 meters, where oxygen is low, the wind never stops, and frost can hit in the middle of the day. The bird itself? Small, compact, elegant, dark brown plumage, orange legs, and a white chest band that gives it a monk-like vibe. But the real showstopper? That shimmering silver line across its forehead, like a crown made of fog, hence the diademed. It's so good at hiding in the tufts of puna grass that even experienced researchers sometimes walk right past it without noticing. You don't spot this bird. It spots you, decides you're not interesting, and disappears. It's a species that says, "You came all the way up here? Cute. Good luck finding me." Fun fact, it's not quite a sandpiper, and not exactly a plover. For decades, ornithologists debated what this bird even is. Turns out, it's in its own thing. A unique evolutionary path, like the bird version of a philosophical loner. And while it's not critically endangered, it's still in trouble. Its wetland habitats are shrinking due to climate change and mining activity. And because it lives so high, it has nowhere left to go if conditions change. So yeah, it's quiet, it's small, but it may just be one of the most enigmatic survivors in all of South America. Here's your question. If no one sees you, but you thrive anyway, do you still count as legendary? Let us know what you think in the comments. And stay tuned, because next up is a bird that survives by blending into rocks so perfectly, it's practically invisible until it moves. Imagine walking across a frozen rocky mountain plain and the ground suddenly moves. That's the Rufous-bellied seedsnipe, a bird that's basically a feathered rock with legs. Seriously, this thing is the master of camouflage. Its mottled gray-brown plumage matches the Andean puna so perfectly, you could be standing 3 feet away and still miss it. It doesn't fly much. It prefers to walk, quietly, slowly, like it's got nowhere to be, and it's fine with that. But don't mistake slow for soft. This bird is a survivor. The Rufous-bellied seedsnipe lives at altitudes up to 5,000 meters, where winds rip across the plains and temperatures can drop below freezing even in summer. There's barely any oxygen, no trees, and food is limited. But this bird makes it work. Its diet, mostly seeds, buds, and high-altitude vegetation. It's like the keto hiker of the Andes. It walks low to the ground, saving energy, conserving heat, and disappearing into the landscape at will. Fun fact, despite being called a seedsnipe, it's not a snipe at all. It's more closely related to shorebirds, but it doesn't live near water. Basically, it's what happens when evolution goes, okay, here's the worst possible place to live. Let's build something that loves it. They usually live in pairs or small family groups, and when threatened, they don't fly, they freeze, which is very effective until a human with a camera finally sees one and loses their mind. They're not endangered yet, but like many Andean specialists, their world is shrinking due to climate shifts and expanding development. Still, if there's one bird that embodies the spirit of the Andes, tough, quiet, built to last, it's this humble, rugged, completely underrated creature. So here's your question. If you could survive anything, but nobody ever notices you, would that be a blessing or a curse? Let us know in the comments. And coming up next, we're heading deep into the mossy, misty forests of Peru, where one of the rarest birds on the continent is clinging to life, tree by tree. If birds had royal titles, this one wouldn't just wear a crown. It'd be hiding in a remote mountain forest, quietly trying not to disappear forever. Meet the Royal Cinclodes, a bird so rare, even most professional ornithologists have never seen one in the wild. It lives high in the humid polylepis forests of the Peruvian and Bolivian Andes, moss-draped, wind-bent patches of trees that survive where almost nothing else grows. These forests are some of the rarest ecosystems in the world, and so is the bird that calls them home. The Royal Cinclodes isn't flashy. It's earthy brown with a white throat and a pale eyebrow. It looks like it could blend into the bark of a tree, and that's exactly what it does. It hops around low branches, flipping moss and leaf litter with its slender beak, searching for insects and grubs. Quiet, careful, almost invisible. But here's the catch. There may be fewer than 250 individuals left on Earth. That's it. One bird, one forest, barely hanging on. And it's not just endangered, it's critically endangered. Why? Because polylepis forests are disappearing fast. Overgrazing, firewood harvesting, and climate change are shrinking the Royal Cinclodes world to fragments. Fun fact, this bird is so specialized, it's basically a forest loyalist. It won't survive anywhere else. If the polylepis trees go, the Royal Cinclodes goes with them. Conservationists have started to plant new trees and fence off tiny protected zones. But time is tight and the population is aging. It's a bird that reminds us, sometimes the rarest things don't glow in neon or scream from branches. Sometimes they're quiet, grounded, and slipping away before we even notice. So here's your question. If a bird can only survive in one tiny, fading corner of the world, how far should we go to protect that corner? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And next, we're heading into the shadows, where a mysterious forest-dwelling bird walks the leaf litter like a ghost and barely leaves a trace. If you've never seen a black-fronted wood-quail, don't worry. Almost no one has. Not because it's extinct, not because it's flashy, but because it's a master of staying hidden. This bird lives deep in the humid cloud forests of the northern Andes, Colombia to be exact. And while it may look like a humble ground bird, the black-fronted wood-quail is a ghost. It walks in shadows, lives in family groups, and vanishes at the slightest sign of disturbance. And when I say vanishes, I mean pfft, gone, like it never existed. It's plump and compact, with rich chestnut feathers and a distinctive black face mask, like it's wearing its own natural camouflage balaclava. You might hear a soft series of whistles or clucks, but if you blink, you'll miss it. This bird prefers the underbrush. Low light, thick moss, fallen leaves. Its world is quiet, damp, and timeless. Fun fact, black-fronted wood-quails are incredibly social within their little coveys. That's the official term for a quail squad, by the way. They huddle together, feed side by side, and even roost in tight groups for warmth and protection. Basically, family-first introverts. But here's the problem. Logging, agriculture, and habitat fragmentation are carving up their already limited range. And because they're so hard to study, we don't even know how many are left. They're officially listed as near threatened. But some researchers believe they could be much rarer, and yet they endure. Walking softly, surviving quietly, one leaf-covered trail at a time. This bird isn't flashy, it doesn't dance, but it reminds us that mystery is its own kind of power. So here's the question. If a species is this good at avoiding us, does that make it safe or just easier to lose without even noticing? Let us know in the comments. And coming up, we're trading shadows for sparkle because the next bird on our list looks like a glowing emerald with two swinging spatulas for a tail. What do you get when you cross a hummingbird, a ribbon dancer, and a glow stick? You get the marvelous spatuletail, and yes, that's its actual name. And for once, the name doesn't exaggerate. It might even be an understatement. This tiny hummingbird, found only in a small region of northern Peru, is one of the rarest and most visually bizarre birds on the planet. Males have a long, iridescent tail with just 4 feathers, but 2 of them end in violet-blue spatula-shaped discs that dangle and shimmer as they fly. And they don't just sit still. Oh no, they swing these tail discs like nunchucks during mating displays, circling in midair, hovering, twisting, and doing moves that look like they belong in an Olympic ribbon dance. All of this just to impress a female. And if she's not into it, tough luck. He goes back to practicing, alone, again. The marvelous spatuletail lives in a narrow elevational band, in shrinking patches of forest near the Rio Utcubamba Valley. It's a specialist in every way, feeding on specific flowers, nesting in very specific shrubs, and only showing off that wild tail during a short breeding window. Fun fact, the tail discs aren't just for show. They're so lightweight and flexible that they can move independently, like built-in puppets. Scientists still don't fully understand how the bird controls them so precisely. Sadly, like many ultra-specialized species, it's endangered. Its forest home is under pressure from farming and development, and its tiny population, estimated to be under 1,000 individuals, makes it incredibly vulnerable. But here's the thing. If you're lucky enough to see one, even for a second, it feels like watching magic in motion. So here's your question. If beauty this bizarre exists, do you think nature ever gets bored? Or is it just constantly trying to one-up itself? Tell us in the comments. And next up, we're going from aerial elegance to aquatic isolation, with a bird that never flies and never leaves its lake. There are birds that soar, there are birds that dive, and then there's the Titicaca grebe, a bird that doesn't do either. This little water bird lives its entire life on a single lake, Lake Titicaca, straddling the border between Peru and Bolivia, high in the Andes. At over 12,000 feet above sea level, it's one of the highest navigable lakes on Earth. And this grebe, it never flies. Not even a little. That's not poetic, it's literal. The Titicaca grebe has tiny, useless wings, barely longer than your thumb. It gave up flight entirely, choosing instead to become a full-time swimmer. And what it lacks in wingspan, it makes up for in underwater agility. With strong legs set far back on its body, this bird is built like a feathered torpedo. It zips through the water, hunting small fish, mostly a native killifish called Orestes. It nests in reed beds, raises its chicks on floating platforms, and drifts through life like a little boat with a heartbeat. But here's the catch. You can't leave Lake Titicaca and still be a Titicaca grebe. Its food, its habitat, its entire way of life is locked to this one body of water. And that's where things get scary. The lake has been changing fast. Pollution, habitat disturbance, introduced species like pegare fish, which compete with and eat native fish, and water level fluctuations have all taken a toll. The grebe population has declined steeply, and today it's listed as endangered. Fun fact, the species name Microptera literally means small wings, which feels a little mean. But hey, it leaned into the brand. Some local communities now work to protect the grebe and restore the lake's ecosystem. But it's a race against time and warming temperatures. The Titicaca grebe doesn't need a passport, but it does need a future. So here's your question. Would you trade the sky for the comfort of a single place you could never leave? Let us know in the comments. And up next, we're heading back into the clouds, where a bold, trumpet-voiced bird struts across open grasslands like it owns the whole mountain. Imagine you're hiking across the windswept grasslands of the Andes. Thin air, cold sun, not a tree in sight. Then you hear it, a loud trumpet-like call echoing through the mountains. Nope, not a llama. It's the Andean ibis, and it just made sure you know this is its turf. Standing tall with a curved, dagger-like beak and a sharp eye, the Andean ibis isn't subtle. With cinnamon-colored wings, a black-tipped bill, and a bare red face, it looks like a high-altitude warrior monk that swapped the robe for a feathered cloak. It's bold, it's vocal, and it's built for the puna, those high-altitude grasslands where the air is thin, the weather swings wild, and the ground crunches with frost at sunrise. This ibis spends its days striding across the landscape in search of insects, worms, and whatever else it can dig up. That long, curved beak, perfect for probing into the soil and flipping stones. It's like nature gave it a built-in multi-tool. Fun fact, the Andean ibis is only found in the Andes, and even then, only in select spots in Peru, Bolivia, Ecuador, and southern Colombia. It used to be lumped in with a more common cousin, the black-faced ibis. But in 2004, researchers decided, nope, this bird is its own species. Which makes sense. It's more isolated, more specialized, and honestly, more dramatic. But as grasslands get converted into farmland and mining pushes higher into the mountains, the ibis is losing space. It's now considered near threatened, with population declines being monitored closely. It's ironic. This bird is loud, visible, and unafraid to walk right past you, yet it's quietly slipping from view, one field at a time. So here's your question. If being bold and visible isn't enough to survive, what does that say about the world we're building? Let us know in the comments. And next up, we're heading into color overload, because the next bird looks like someone gave a fruit salad wings and told it to hide in the trees. If a bird could cosplay as a tropical smoothie, this would be the one. Introducing the masked fruiteater, a bird that looks like it fell out of a fruit bowl and into a comic book. Lime green body, bright orange belly, and a jet black face mask that makes it look like it's about to pull off a jungle heist. But don't let the colors fool you. This bird is surprisingly hard to find. It lives only in the humid montane forests of central Peru, high in the Andes. Think mist, moss, thick canopies, and steep slopes. The perfect place to vanish, even if you're wearing neon. And vanish it does. The masked fruit eater is a leaf-matching ninja. It rarely leaves the canopy, barely makes a sound, and moves with slow, calculated hops through the branches. Its diet, you guessed it, fruit. It plucks berries mid-air, swallows them whole, and later helps spread seeds across the forest. In other words, it's not just a snack lover, it's a forest gardener. Fun fact, despite its supervillain name, the masked fruit eater is incredibly shy. Even experienced birders sometimes only catch a glimpse, a flash of green and orange disappearing into the fog. And while it's not officially endangered, its range is extremely limited, and habitat loss is creeping closer every year. It's one of those birds that feels like it should be famous, But instead, it stays quiet, mysterious, masked, and for now, mostly safe. So here's your question. If you look this amazing, would you hide from the world? Or would you strut like you're on nature's runway? Drop your answer in the comments. And next, we're meeting a toucan that traded the tropics for the mountaintops, and somehow still looks like it escaped from a Pixar movie. When you think of toucans, you probably picture something tropical. Hot sun, palm trees, maybe a fruity drink on the side. But what if I told you there's a toucan that lives in the cold, rainy, fog-choked Andes, up to 10,000 feet above sea level? Say hello to the gray-breasted mountain toucan, a bird that looks like it wandered out of the tropics and just refused to leave. It's got all the toucan trademarks: oversized bill, bright colors, and serious cartoon energy. But this one? It's got a cool gray chest, deep cobalt wings, a mustard yellow rump, and a beak that's red, green, and black like a modern art sculpture. It lives in the cloud forests of Colombia, Ecuador, and northern Peru, misty, mossy places where trees drip and the sun barely makes it through, and it loves it. The mountain toucan hops through the canopy like a feathered acrobat, calling out with a deep, resonant croak that echoes through the fog. It eats fruit, insects, and sometimes small reptiles, because why not? Fun fact, that giant beak, it's not just for show. It helps regulate body temperature, especially in high elevations, where the climate swings between chilly and weirdly hot. Basically, it's a built-in heat vent. And like many birds on this list, the gray-breasted mountain toucan is a specialist. It only lives in certain types of high-altitude forest. And as those forests shrink due to deforestation and agriculture, so does its range. It's not endangered yet, but it's definitely watch list material, and conservationists are keeping an eye on it. Because when a bird this loud, this big, and this colorful starts disappearing quietly, that should make some noise. So here's your question. If you could live anywhere, but had to stick out like a sore thumb to do it, would you still choose the mountaintop? Let us know in the comments. And coming up next, we're getting even more exclusive, heading to a remote corner of the Andes where one tiny bird lives, sings, and glows, and nowhere else on Earth. Some birds are bold, some are beautiful, and some are barely real. Say hello to the white-faced Whitestart, a bird so rare it only lives in a tiny slice of southern Venezuela's Andean range. Like really tiny, we're talking just a few scattered mountaintops in the remote Sierra de Peria. This bird is small, active, and full of personality. It's got a bright yellow belly, smoky black wings, and a white face that makes it look permanently surprised, like it just heard the Wi-Fi went out. But here's what makes it wild. This species was unknown to science until the 1950s, and for decades after that, hardly anyone saw it again. It's not that it's extinct, it's just really good at disappearing. It flits through thick cloud forest undergrowth, flashing its bright tail feathers to startle insects into moving. Then, snap, it grabs them midair. It's like a tiny leafy ninja with rhythm. Fun fact, most Whitestarts have bright face patterns, but this one is the only one with a fully white face, which gives it a slightly ghostly, almost cartoonish look, like it doesn't quite belong in the real world. And biologically, it doesn't really belong anywhere else. The white-faced Whitestart has one of the smallest known ranges of any bird in the Andes, and its habitat is under pressure from farming, mining, and political instability. It's not just rare, it's fragile. Birders dream of seeing it, researchers struggle to study it, and locals? Many don't even know it's there. But it is, and somehow it's still hanging on. So here's your question. If you could only exist in one forest, on one mountain, in one country, would that make your world small or incredibly special? Let us know your thoughts below. And stick around, because next we're meeting a bold bird in a hoodie that rules the high treetops with size, swagger, and song. Some birds sneak through the underbrush. This one walks in like it owns the canopy. Meet the hooded mountain tanager, a bird that's big, bold, and dressed like it's headed to a ski resort in style. This tanager wears a deep blue body with a bright yellow hood that wraps over its head and chest like a custom Patagonia jacket. Add in its size, almost 9 inches long, and you've got one of the largest tanagers on the planet. It's not shy either. You'll hear it coming with loud, fluty calls, echoing through high-elevation cloud forests in Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, and Bolivia. It travels in small groups, moving through treetops like a gang of feathered hikers who know exactly where they're going and don't care who's watching. But despite the vibrant colors and outgoing attitude, it's still a true Andean specialist. You won't find this hoodie-wearing beauty in the Amazon, or in the cities, or in lowlands, only in cool, wet, mountainous forests, typically above 2,500 meters. It feeds on fruit, berries, and insects, often flipping leaves with its strong bill and hanging upside down like it's doing bird yoga. Which, let's be honest, is kind of impressive for something this chunky. Fun fact, the hooded mountain tanager is a frequent focal species in mixed feeding flocks. That means other birds actually follow it through the forest because it's loud, alert, and tends to find the good snacks. Basically, it's the brunch leader of the Andes. While not currently endangered, it's dependent on healthy, unbroken forest, which is becoming harder to find. Logging, road building, and agriculture are slicing up its range, piece by piece. But for now, this colorful mountaintop monarch is still holding court, one high forest at a time. So here's your question. If everyone followed you through the forest, would you lead with confidence or just pretend to know where you're going? Tell us in the comments. And up next, we close this journey with a bird that doesn't fly, doesn't migrate, and might not survive the decade. But if it disappears, a whole lake might go silent with it. This last bird doesn't soar. It doesn't migrate. It doesn't even have working wings. The Junin grebe is a bird that lives its entire life on a single lake in the central Peruvian Andes, Lake Junin, and it's on the brink of vanishing. At first glance, it looks like a smaller cousin of the Titicaca grebe, stocky body, sharp beak, intense red eyes. But its story, far heavier. The Junin grebe is flightless, meaning once it's born on that lake, it's staying there, forever. It dives for fish, builds floating nests among reeds, and survives entirely within this one ecosystem. But that ecosystem is crumbling. Decades of pollution from mining runoff, water level fluctuations from dams, and invasive species have pushed this grebe to the edge. At one point, its population dropped to fewer than 250 individuals. That's not just rare, that's emergency level rare. Conservationists have fought to clean the lake, protect nesting sites, and raise awareness. Progress is being made, but it's fragile, and the bird's future hangs on every dry season, every policy decision, every bit of human effort. Fun fact, the Junin grebe was only discovered in the 1920s, meaning it went completely unnoticed by science for centuries, and could vanish again just as quietly. And here's the part that hits hardest. If this bird disappears, so does a unique piece of the Andes, a voice in the wetlands, a swimmer that chose water over wings. So back to the question we asked at the beginning. What does survival really look like at the top of the world? Is it bold feathers, specialized beaks, or just the quiet will to hold on, no matter what? Let us know in the comments. And if any of these 15 species blew your mind or broke your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more rare nature stories, and share this with someone who loves the wild, the weird, and the absolutely wonderful. Because out here in the Andes, every feather counts.